Alright y'all, well, welcome back to the channel, or welcome in if you're new around here. You joined me this evening? Well, it's actually turkey season eve, if you will. It's Friday night, the 10th. Tomorrow morning, Saturday the 11th, is when turkey opens here in Virginia. And we're actually sitting out here listening for a bird or two tonight that I think we've got a decent chance of getting on in the morning anyway. We're actually out on the typical shooting range. It's a small farm that I have permission to hunt on, so I think we may have a chance. It's a tricky spot to hunt. You gotta know what the birds are doing, where they typically go, where they roost, and stuff like that. But I'll flip it around and just give you guys a quick overview of what we're looking at. As you can see, we're out here on the range. And what I've been noticing is there's two toms that like to gobble right over in this little creek bottom area right here in front of me. If you look on the back end of that pond, there's a trail and it runs all the way up that ridge line, all the way up the top of that hill and down into the creek bottom, probably close to 200 yards down that way. On top of that ridge up there, there's a big giant like CRP type field. This is a pretty thin sliver of woods, and it gets a little thicker down in the bottom corner. But those turkeys love to fly out and mess around in that big field over there all the time. But I've heard and seen them several times strutting right down here in this big open area and gobbling right down in that creek bottom right there. I heard one a couple days ago fly up and roost in one of these trees right here. So that's the plan, or at least the hope anyway. If we can get one or both of the toms to actually roost in those trees, then maybe tomorrow morning we can jump on that trail and cut up here and get in between the field and where they're roosted. Or potentially if they're way down here towards the bottom, we can just get on this field edge somewhere right here and get them to come out this way. Now, I don't expect for them to really gobble at all. I have not heard any of them, or at least not these two, gobble when they're actually on the roost just yet. I'm more so watching and listening for them to fly up into the trees. That way I know where they're at. I don't expect them to do much, if any, gobbling tonight. So we'll see. I may have some idea of where they're at, or I may not. I know they're generally right in this area, so it's still a safe bet to at least come here tomorrow morning. We can get eyes on the situation and see what happens. I know that there's several hens around here as well that they like to follow, so they may very well play a role as well, both where they land tonight and what they do tomorrow morning. So it's just a waiting game. If I hear something gobble, then I'll pick you guys back up and kind of give you a game plan. If not, then we'll catch up in the morning and see what we can actually maybe make happen, since for the first half of the season, we can only hunt until noon. Not a massive detriment, but when setups are like this, and I know where they like to roost, I love hunting evenings. So we'll just have to play our cards however they're dealt to us tomorrow morning. And for a quick rig rundown before opening morning here, this is the combo we're going to be hunting with this season, at least to start with here, to try and get our first bird. This was my late uncle's 1952 Browning Auto 5, 12 gauge, 2 3/4 chamber, fixed full choke. We're going to be shooting some Remington Nitro Turkey 2 3/4 5s. That's what this gun seems to like the best. He passed away last year just after turkey season ended, so I definitely wanted to try and take this gun out on some hunts this year and see what we could do with it. It's old school, it's nothing fancy, not an amazing shell, but it's 40-yard capable, and if we put ourselves in the situations we need to be in, that setup's going to take a turkey for us. So now, we got to see what happens come tomorrow morning anyway. Alright, it's opening morning, and we're down here on them already. I know it's tricky for you to see me, but we've got two of them, I believe, roosted, but they're in a little different spot than what I thought they would be. But that's fine. It's hard for you to tell, but right up there in the middle of the screen, where the sunlight's shining, just to the right, there's two of them gobbling up in a tree down there. There you go, you probably just heard him. I would like to be up on this hill over here on the right, but it's too dangerous to get up there right now. So I'm going to have to try and play the bottom here in front of me. So I got to move in quick here. Maybe we might get lucky. I know they typically like to go over to the field top up here, so I'm not in a great position. Maybe we can make it work. He just gobbled again right there. I'm pretty sure there's two of them there though from what I've heard. So let's slip in here, let's get a spot, and maybe we can get lucky and bring him this way. There he goes, he's up there somewhere. I can't see him yet though, but I need to get a spot somewhere right in here pretty quick, I'm sure. Let me see what I can find. Okay, well, we're set up. Not in a great spot, but it's gonna have to do. I'm gonna start. There he goes. He's right up in those trees. Kind of right in there. There's another one way up the ridge farther that way too. I'm gonna try my luck here. If we can get him to fly down and into here, then we've got him. Those logs you see right there, that's about 35 yards. So I'm gonna give him a couple tiny yelps, and maybe I can bring him in here just quick enough to get a shot off at him. That's the hope anyway right now. I just saw him fly down. He landed somewhere right over in there. Maybe we can get him to come this way. I don't know. I'm gonna try it and see. I have a feeling he's moving farther up the ridge there, right where I want it to be ideally. They don't usually come down this way, which is why I'm trying to pull him down this way. I don't know that he's gonna do it though. I'm hearing another hen up there too. Could also be another hunter, I don't know. We'll see. I know there's probably people hunting that big field up there today, but we'll wait it out and see. Yeah, I know exactly where he's at. He's up on top of that ridge, right up there in the center of the screen. I actually see it. I don't know if I'll be able to get him on camera or not. The thing is, I'm competing with either a couple hens or another hunter or two up there on the next property over, and I have a feeling he's gonna go to them and not me. They're in a better position. So after we had that quick little spotting of him walking across the side of that ridge, he was 100 yards or more out in front of me. There was a creek and a really thick brush patch between me and him. There was no way I was ever going to spot and stalk him or anything. He had zero reason to come down that hill to me when the big field he was going to wind up going to was up on the other end of the ridge. So watched him make his way on out towards the field, and I figured, well, I'll give it a shot. We'll reposition up to where he was. We'll get eyes on him if we can, and we'll see what happens from there. Okay, he has officially moved along up that ridgetop over there and actually gotten up into that field. He has no reason to come to me right now. Hopefully now I can try and reposition a little bit. Maybe we'll get lucky. He really has no reason to leave that big field up here right now. So I'm going to reposition over to kind of where he was roosted, be able to actually see at that point and probably get eyes on him. Okay, well, we've made it up to the ridge here. That bird was originally roosted right behind me, but I can actually see out into this field here in front of me now. And I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. I can actually see that bird right out in the field. See him up there between those two big trees? There he is. There's actually another bird way out yonder in the field too there. But that's the guy that's steady gobbling right there. You can see him strutting. So he is probably, I don't know, 250 yards from me right now. So unfortunately there's not much I can really do about him. I'm going to get on the binoculars here in a second and look and get a better idea on what's going on out in this field, how many other turkeys are there, and where they're at, and it may just be a waiting game here. I know they're going to move out of this field at some point, but we've only got till noon to hunt, so we're going to have to wait it out. I'm in a good location. I can swing around the corner of this field too and get to the other side of the tree line if I need to, but I just can't hunt the field. I don't have permission for that property. So I'm going to sit here, assess the situation, figure out exactly where we need to be, or if it's just a game of hurry up and wait. Well, we didn't end up actually getting any other opportunities at him. He stayed out in that field and wandered way out there over some of the little ridges and stuff in the middle where I couldn't see him anymore. We ran out of time. We can only hunt till noon for the first part of the season. So opening morning didn't go exactly how I wanted it to. Ideally anyway, I would have absolutely been up on the ridge with him, but I didn't know he was exactly right there the night before, or else I probably would have been. I knew there was probably a very slim chance of us ever calling him down that ridge to us, but that's just the cards we were dealt that morning. But hey, we know there's birds in the area. We know where they're typically liking the roost, so we're off to a really good start here, if nothing else. And later on that evening, I was out there trying to roost one again, right up in that same area to see if he was there or not. Didn't end up finding him. Several days goes by. don't end up seeing or hearing much as far as turkeys go. Now we're looking at 4 or 5 days into the season. The weather's going to start getting cold on us again. It had been up in the 80s and it's about to drop quick, but that's when we actually got some pretty interesting action going on. Alright y'all, well, picking you up at a pretty interesting time here. I'll make this quick because this bird is actually hammering over here. It's a few days later in the evening, still sitting out here on the shooting range listening for a bird, seeing the next time he's going to be roosted where I need him to be, and sure enough he is. As you can see though, I'm in a big jacket with a hood up. It's 50 degrees currently, and it's going to get to 30 tonight. If this was deer hunting weather late in the season, that would be beautiful, but for turkey season around here, that is freezing, all things considered. Not exactly the weather we've been having. Usually it's been high in the mid 80s, low in the high 50s, nice low 60s in the morning, but it's going to be cold tomorrow and we may have to come out here and actually try and get under this bird. You may or may not have been able to hear him as I've been talking here, but that bird is roosted probably 250 yards into that tree line there, right where we've been setting up in the mornings, trying to get him as he comes off the roost. That's exactly where I would expect him to be, and I know we can kill him in that exact location. It just needs to work out in our favor. I didn't bring any calls out here with me to try and get him to gobble again this evening, because I didn't honestly expect to really try and hunt tomorrow morning with it being cold. But if that bird's going to be hammering, then we might have to. We know the location that he's going to be in, so I guess I'll sit here for a little bit more this evening, make sure I pinpoint where he's at. Pretty much already know what tree he's going to be in, but we'll see if he actually plays ball or not, I guess. And we'll probably be out here in the freezing cold, bundled up tomorrow morning at the base of a tree. But if we can get the job done, then hey, that makes for a pretty interesting hunt for sure. Yep. He's right up in those trees over there, exactly where we need him to be at. So I'm gonna sit here, just make sure he stays there and actually roosts. Pretty sure he's up in the tree already. But if he stays there, we've got a real good shot in the cold tomorrow. Even if he gobbles or not, doesn't really matter. If we know what tree he's in, we know what the route he's gonna take, and we might be able to get lucky. So after sitting there and listening to where that bird was gobbling, he never moved that evening until he went quiet for the night. I knew right where he was at. It's pretty well the same spot that the bird was in opening morning for us. So I knew I had to get in there early. I was going to go right up on that ridge top, pretty much get right underneath of him as realistically as I could anyway. Pick a good tree where I thought I'd have a chance. I know usually they fly down up to kind of the flat point on the ridge there, kind of where we saw him on day number 1 for a little bit. And then they make their way out into the field. That's what I was expecting going up in there to him, is that he would do that. And it was definitely the right call to make, going right up there after him, because we got right underneath of him the next morning and action picked up pretty quick. And I'm going to jump in here in voiceover and say that's just a little taste of how this morning sounded out in the woods. I have 57 minutes worth of footage between the time I first heard that bird gobble and the time that he actually flew down out of the tree. I counted in editing, he gobbled in 57 minutes 132 times. I don't think I've ever heard a bird gobble as much as this bird did, and towards the end here, it got to a point where he was stacking them kind of one on top of the other, so he was extremely extremely talkative, even though it was about 30 degrees that morning. But here is just a little bit of an unedited 20-second clip or so of exactly how that bird sounded, just over and over and over again, right before he flew down out of the tree. And after almost an hour, that's when he finally decided to fly down. After he flew down, I thought for sure he was going to come right over the ridge. That's why I turned my camera to the left. Needless to say, that is not what he decided to do. Well, it's a big uh-oh moment now. Things have not played out the way I thought they did, and it is a massive letdown, to say the least. I'm standing right here where that turkey was when I shot it. I thought for sure when I saw that bird go down behind this little brush stuff that's in front of me here, that we had hammered that bird right there. I heard a little flop noise over here, didn't think much of it. Well, needless to say, I come over here to where this bird was standing, and there's no turkey. So I thought, okay, well, he might have flopped and rolled down this hillside behind me over here. I walked down there a little ways, still no turkey. And that's when that sinking feeling comes in. Did I miss that bird or not? Well, yes and no. So I'm standing right here where this bird was. You can see right here, that one center tree between that big tree and that stump, that is where I was sitting. That tree is probably 6 yards, 7 yards in front of me or something like that. So it is inside of 10 yards. If we look kind of down here at my feet, yeah, you can see right down here, there's a few of these turkey feathers sitting here. And here's a few more right over here as well, kind of mixed in with the leaves. So yeah, clearly that little window that I had right there, it was just too close of a range. I felt really good about that shot, but at that distance, at 7 yards or so, that shot was probably just the size of a slug more than anything else. It definitely really didn't start to separate and open the pattern up any, that's for sure. But where it really comes in and really gets unfortunate is I walked kind of down over here off this ridge and up along that way some. Here, I'll show you. That's where we took our shot from. I'm standing right where the turkey was, and I thought he might have tumbled down into there, but no dice. So I walked down to that bottom flat area down there and walked up that way a little bit. And sure enough, when I got right down in there, probably 40 yards in front of me, off he flushed way down off into there. Now, unfortunately, the property line is right over there, probably 60 yards in front of me or so. I walked all the way up to the property line, and that bird still had enough to fly over the property line, about, I don't know, 10, 15 feet above the ground. So I definitely hit the bird to some degree, but obviously it was not enough to be immediately lethal. If it was a missed shot, that's unfortunate, but I don't like bad shots or wounded birds, wounded deer, whatever the case is. That really doesn't make me too happy. I don't think I actually missed him. I might have clipped him with the wad or something like that to kind of stun him a little bit, as for him not to immediately fly off, but now fingers are crossed. Maybe that bird survives and it wasn't a lethal hit. He was definitely wounded to some degree or hit and shocked to some degree, but I don't know, man. That is just an absolute heartbreaker. It happens. That's why those really close shots are some of the hardest ones you will ever make on a turkey. I mean, we could have shot him with a .410 pistol at that range with pretty much anything loaded in it. But that was such just the perfect hunt. That bird gobbled probably 300 times on the roost in 45 minutes this morning. Just for him to come to 6 yards or so, and for me to barely clip some feathers on him, I don't love how that hunt ended for sure. I'm going to stick around up here and watch out in this field over here in front of me. We'll see if he happens to pop back out. That's where he likes to spend the day, is out there. We'll see what comes to us. If I find him, great. If I don't, I don't. We're going to be sticking around here like we usually do in the evenings. If he starts gobbling up here again, then hey, we might have another opportunity at him. But that is a real big letdown for sure. There's no other way to put it. I felt good about the shot, but when your pattern is the size of a penny at that kind of range, things can get a little tricky sometimes, unfortunately. Not the way I wanted the morning to end, that's for sure. I guess it's not over yet, but we'll see how the day plays out, I suppose, and what continues to come as of this property anyway. Alright, well, we've got some discussing to do now that we're back down here in the basement. That was one of the most ridiculous mornings of turkey hunting I've ever had. I don't think I've ever heard a bird gobble that much, but to have it end the way that it did there is just terrible. I can sit here and make all the excuses in the world that I want to, and the fact of the matter is I either missed or barely clipped that bird's feathers or something, and straight up I should not have. I did measure it with my rangefinder a little bit later on, and it was actually 4.5 yards is where that bird's head popped up at. There's no chance in the world that he didn't immediately spot me there, because he was to my right and he would have immediately silhouetted me sitting up against the tree. In hindsight, I could have maybe waited for him to move farther to the right around the side of the big tree. Maybe it would have worked out, maybe it wouldn't have. The last thing I needed is for him to come even closer to me though. I mean, at 4.5 yards, you could throw the shotgun at him and still get the job done. He didn't do what I expected him to though. I thought he would fly down out of the tree, get over in that nice flat zone in front of me. That's why I turned my camera over a little bit to the left where I expected him to walk over the ridge. Instead, he flew straight down out of the tree and made a beeline directly at me. I don't know why he did that. It makes no sense. There's a lot of brush and blowdown in the path that he took. So not what I thought he would do. And again, in hindsight, if I knew he was going to do that, maybe in all the gobbling he was doing that morning, I could have repositioned and backed up a little bit, kind of farther over my left shoulder, would have got a little more space, maybe 15 to 20 yards or so between me and him. That probably would have saved us. I could have maybe even moved a little farther to my right and shot him right when he flew down out of the tree where I could actually see over the ridge. That may have worked, but when it comes down to it, I made the choice to sit at the tree that I did. He did not do what I expected him to do. He came to 4.5 yards, and with a 12 gauge, with a turkey load and a fixed full choke, even though that gun isn't the greatest, most tightest patterning thing ever, at 4.5 yards, it doesn't matter what you shoot. The shot isn't even going to really separate from the wad at that kind of distance. So you're shooting a slug at the turkey. If you're off by a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, you're not going to have the leeway to work with. So hindsight is 20/20. We can make all the excuses we want to make, but man, is it frustrating and disappointing to have that. I obviously clipped him to some degree to knock some feathers off of him there, but I never saw him again. I never heard him again. I unfortunately have that feeling that he probably did not make it if I just clipped him good enough, considering that we had an extra 3 weeks after that and I still had not heard anything from him. And that wasn't for a lack of trying neither. I was out there almost every day listening, hunting, trying to find him, trying to spot him, anything. Unfortunately, when it comes to turkeys, I've got essentially pretty much 2 options. Either this property we were on or a couple public land spots that aren't great as far as any opportunities near me anyway, without having to travel. And I just didn't have the time to travel to another location farther away or a different state or anything like that this spring. So for what a massive start to the turkey season we had, I mean, everything was looking great. It was working out. They were giving us a show. Just as quickly as it started, it pretty much ended. And it's not just me neither. I've heard that from a lot of other people around here in this area this spring, as well as other people just online in general. The turkey started great, and it was like somebody hit the kill switch and that was it. They disappeared, dried up, and nobody had an opportunity after about week number 2 of the season. And that same thing happened to me, unfortunately. I've had a pretty tough last turkey season and last deer season as well last fall, and that trend kind of continues here. That opportunity we had at that bird was the one and only chance we were gonna ever have. And it wasn't for lack of trying. I tried on that property. I even went up to the mountains to a little piece of public area that I have had success in before. I heard one bird gobble, never saw him, never found him. I spent a week trying to mess around with them up there to no avail. I came back to this property right at the end of the season. I saw a couple hens. There was one kind of out behind the farmhouse here in the backyard area that I watched for a little bit. When I went back up there to the ridge where we took that shot initially at that turkey, I saw a couple hens out in the big field up there, but no toms with them to speak of. That's why I really, unfortunately, think that tom did not end up making it. I just don't have permission to go over onto that property like I would want to, even for recovery stuff. And even if we would have had to take a second shot, I just don't have the permission to do it. It's unfortunate. I hate when that happens. No hunter wants to have that happen. But if you do it long enough, I don't care if you're a new hunter, if you've been doing it for 70 years, if you got the best equipment or the worst equipment, if you try and make the best decisions you can, or just throw caution to the wind, something like that will eventually happen to everybody. We try to mitigate that stuff the best we can, but it kind of is what it is, as much as we hate to admit it. So, needless to say, my turkey season pretty much started and ended with that shot opportunity. But we've got our knowledge. The birds are still in the same spot that they usually are, right over on that ridgetop area. We always have this fall we can try it. We always have next spring we can try it. And maybe if this situation happens again, I'll pick a little bit different tree to give myself a little more breathing room. Because hunting is hunting. And animals are animals. They're not going to do what you expect them to do, a lot more times than not. So, unfortunate ending. There's no other excuse I can make. I should have made that shot, and I didn't. That's the end of the story right then and there. Not the way I wanted it to go out. It was a very disappointing end to the turkey season, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, if nothing else. It started off like a lightning round, and it ended in disappointment. But we've got more to come. That's not going to discourage me from turkey hunting, that's for sure. I'm going to be right back out there again as soon as the law allows me to be. So, there's going to be more turkey hunting videos for sure. So, stick around if you enjoyed. There's plenty more to come. We're going to get back to all of our normal testing and stuff as well. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next one.